All right.
Welcome to your itinerary. My name is Rob Knight, and we're going to do something a little bit different this week. My guest today is actually me, and I've asked my buddy Frederick Van Johnson from This Week in Photo to come on and interview me as part of our local expert series. So I'm going to be the local expert this week, and Frederick is going to be doing the asking. So Frederick, thanks for coming on and taking over the helm.
Hey man, thanks for inviting me onto your show. I've been waiting in a dark room for weeks, waiting on the invite to come on this show, and now I get to come on and actually interview the man. So I'm happy. Thank you.
Right on, man.
So this is cool. So yeah, this is I think that your show is awesome. Your itinerary, and one of the things that you and I were talking about offline is how best to convey this. How best to convey the coolness of the location that we're going to be talking about without you having to ask yourself your own questions, hence me here asking you some of the questions that you would normally ask to the person sitting on the other side of the interview.
Right.
So that said, where are we going to be talking about? What's the locale of this discussion?
Well, as listeners know, and you know, I go to Costa Rica pretty often, and you can't really do an episode like this about the whole country of Costa Rica. So I decided to talk about La Fortuna, Costa Rica.
Okay.
It's where it's basically the jumping off point for the Arenal volcano, Lake Arenal. That's sort of northern central part of Costa Rica where a lot of people like to visit.
Got it. Got it. And then when people visit there, when they jump in and they get off the plane, like first day, first couple of days, what can they expect? What's the culture shock?
It's a lot like most of the places that you'll visit in Costa Rica. It's pretty laid back, pretty easygoing. That's why I like about it. As far as photo opportunities, you're looking at a lot of landscape photography, a lot of wildlife photography. You do have to go searching for the wildlife a little more than some places. I've had workshop clients that actually complained because it's not as easy as the Galapagos because everything's not just sort of flopped out there,
Yeah.
for you to shoot. You have to actually, walk in the forest and that kind of thing. But in La Fortuna, it's a nice little town. It's a really neat. I wouldn't call it a city, but it's bigger than a lot of towns in Costa Rica, and it has a really pretty square with a big fountain, and there's always people around, so there's lots of opportunity for street photography as well.
No, La Fortuna, that sounds familiar. I swear. Is that like where they filmed Lost at or some famous show or something? It sounds like I feel like I know that name from somewhere.
I really don't know.
Huh, I wonder. It'd be interesting if that was the location for Lost. So let's take it from arrival. A lot of people get that's the first piece of it. The night before you're getting ready to go on one of these trips, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? What should I bring? What should I not bring? What is customs going to mess with me on? All that stuff. Starting from just getting into the airport, let's start there. What's it like when you touch down, you get off the plane?
Well, you're going to fly into either the San Jose International Airport or Liberia, as it looks on the map. They're about the same distance. Either way, you're about 2 or 3 hours from La Fortuna when you arrive.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do some kind of transportation from the international airport there. I usually fly into SJO, which is the San Jose airport. From Atlanta, where I come from in the States, it usually ends up being about half the price of flying into the other airport. So it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take the $300 or $400 flight versus the $800 or $900 flight every time.
Got it.
And I usually rent a car. I've been there a lot. I'm not. A lot of people are kind of scared to drive in Costa Rica. You hear about, oh, the roads are terrible, and
You're gonna like go off a cliff or something?
yeah. But the route, especially from San Jose to La Fortuna, is, I mean, newly paved, very nice. It's mostly mountain roads, so it takes a while, but it's certainly not giant potholes and things like that. It's a pretty easy drive.
Yeah, and then once you're on the ground, like normally, I for the most part I travel within the United States and then outside from time to time, but mostly major, metropolitan areas like Paris or London or something like that. In this sort of tropical kind of area like that, how is it getting around? How are you navigating in a larger city? I'm okay with Google Maps or Waze or maybe not Apple
Sure.
Maps, but so something like that. When you're out there, do the same rules apply?
Usually not, especially if you're coming from out of the country. You're generally not going to be using a lot of data on your cell phone and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Rental car companies will be happy to rent you a GPS. Although I've seen some really funny things on gravel roads and things like that that people are like, they don't even know what to do in Costa Rica. But the trick I found in navigating Costa Rica is just to know what the next town that you're going to be visiting is.
Hmm.
In other words, from San Jose to La Fortuna, you're going to go through San Ramon, and then you're going to go through lots of places. La Tigra is one of them, but there's if you look at a map and see, the towns that are big enough to be on the map,
Hmm.
there's going to be a sign. If there's a crossroads, there'll be a sign. San Ramon's this way. So you just watch for the signs and keep going. They
Just
don't
like in the
really have.
olden days, right? It's like,
It is. They don't have street signs. They don't
wow.
have street names and things like that.
I
So
mean, but that could be
um,
dangerous in the end, though. I mean, if you get turned around and you're on this road and you're like, midway between 2 points with street signs, you could easily get turned around, especially if it's night, right? So how do you
I
make
would.
sure that that doesn't happen?
Well, I would definitely recommend, especially if you're not familiar with the route, to travel in the daytime.
Okay.
That is a good tip because it's easy to miss the signs if you're not looking for them.
Hmm.
So I would definitely say travel during the day. I make the drive, no big deal. It's not a problem for me. I've made the drive several times, but people are also very nice there. So in general, if you stop at a little supermarket or a gas station or something, and you can show them the map. La Tigra, ¿dónde está La Tigra? And they'll
Yeah.
tell you which way to go.
Got it.
And the truth of the matter is there's just not that many roads. It's not as if you're getting lost, between San Jose and San Francisco, where there's, 1,000 different turns you could make.
Yeah.
A lot of times between point A and point B, there might not be a road that you could take, that's wrong. So
Right.
there are some exceptions, like San Ramon is a pretty big town, and you go through there. That's really the most turns that you have to make the whole way between San Jose and La Fortuna, because the road kind of dead ends, and you have to take a left and then a right, and
Yeah.
I mean that's it. And
Well,
then you go until you get to another crossroads.
the other obvious question along with that, with the, sort of the lack of cell coverage, and being able to, just sort of get around like we're used to with our spoiled iPhones and, nationwide coverage and all that. Because that would be a culture shock to many people. You're there and you're like, okay, I can't check my email, I can't tweet, I can't do anything. So there's that, and I wanna understand how you navigate that or deal with that, the lack of connectivity. But then more importantly is safety considerations when you're out there. A lot of people think anything south of the border is dangerous. You're going to go down there, you're going to get kidnapped, and no one's going to see you again, or something horrible is going to happen to you. You're going to get sold into slavery or something. So how do you? I know I'm telling you, people think this.
Oh,
Right?
sure.
Not me, but people think this. But how do you, what are some, other than just the obvious, common sense things? What do you do to make sure that you and or your family are safe when you're traveling around a foreign country like Costa Rica?
Well, in Costa Rica in particular, the crime rates in San Jose, in the capital city, are pretty high in some neighborhoods, especially.
Yeah.
So people ask me what I do in San Jose, and I said the first thing I do is leave San Jose. That's the first thing I do is drive out into the country, and it's kind of
Well, that's
like,
funny you say that, because people in San Jose, California, say the same thing.
and it's not unlike rural areas in the United States. If
Hmm.
you get out into the middle of nowhere and you run across a farmer, he's probably not going to be a big jerk. He's not going to try to steal your rental car, and that's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And La Fortuna, it's like I said, it's a little bit bigger town, so there's more people, and maybe you don't leave your camera sitting on the bench and walk away from it or anything like that. But it's a lot more of a sort of rural mindset than in the big city.
Good. Good. Yeah, rural and less cutthroat, I would say,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so the other consideration obviously is lodging. So you're there, you're in the country. Presumably, if you're smart, you will have figured out lodging before you get on the ground. But what are some guidelines of where do you stay? I mean, are there Motel Sixes there? Are we going to find a Hilton there? Is it a shack with a thatched roof? What are we looking at?
Well, the short answer is yes to all of
All
those
of the
things.
above.
You can, if you stay in the town of La Fortuna, there's a couple of hostels. There's little motels. There's a little hotel. I mean, you could stay for next to nothing if you want to, or you can stay in resorts that are a mile or two off of the main drag there, then you'll pay. I was just looking up some prices actually before this. One place is called the Springs, and it's a beautiful place. It's brand new. It's been built since I've been visiting Costa Rica, so it's been built within the last gosh, 3 or 4 years, I think, probably. It's
Okay.
it's relatively new, and we actually pass there on the way to the place that I usually stay. But the Springs, it starts at $600 a night. So I
Wow.
mean, it's and if you look at their website, it's amazing. I mean, it looks like it's something out of a movie. To
So it's
me,
it's not a Las Vegas $600 a night, because in Vegas you get, whatever, it's a decent
right?
room
No,
for 600.
it's like tropical paradise with natural hot springs and things like that. Type of a
Got it.
$600. Now, the first time I visited this part of Costa Rica, we stayed at a place called Tabacon, and it was sort of the king of the fancy resort hotels for a while. Now there's lots more new ones since then. But my wife actually planned the trip for my birthday, and she knew somebody who had stayed there. And Tabacon is beautiful, and they have their own hot springs and things like that.
Yeah.
But I like the experience of the place that I stay is called Leaves and Lizards, and it's about
Leaves and lizards.
Leaves and Lizards, and it's about 20 or 30 minutes outside of La Fortuna. It's actually in the hills above La Fortuna, so you can see La Fortuna, and you're in your own cabin with a beautiful view of the volcano, and it's actually a working dairy farm. And so the
Nice.
people that work there are local people. The owners are actually from Florida. Steve and Deb are really nice. They're from Florida, but it's more like staying with friends in Costa Rica. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're not. It's not like some resort experience where that you could basically have anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Virtually.
You're not just guest number 5,032. Right.
Right, right. And not to take anything away from high-end resorts. They're a lot of fun, but for me, I'd rather be able to just sit on my front porch and photograph hummingbirds all morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm in the forest with them, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of lodging that I prefer, and it's less than half of what it is to stay in one of the big resort places too. So
Yeah, and it just depends on what you're going for, because some people just, they want the comfort and the pattern of a high-end resort, and be able to know that the room's going to be turned down when they leave, and they can call room service and get food, and then
sure,
they can leave the safety of the nest and venture out when they want, and run back to safety when they need to, rather
absolutely,
than, yeah. And then other people on the other side, like you, would probably gravitate more towards the authentic experience. It's almost like an Airbnb crowd versus the traditional hotel crowd, right?
sure, sure. And having done both, as a photographer especially, I prefer the more going local aspect of it. But I
Yeah.
will say, to answer your question about staying connected, there are more places in Costa Rica, in my experience, that have Wi-Fi than there are in the United States. I mean, just about everywhere you go, you stop at a little, they're called sodas, just a little cafe, and chances are they'll have Wi-Fi. They'll have free Wi-Fi. I mean, it's crazy. You can get online anywhere. Check your email, check your iMessages and that kind of stuff. So,
That's cool. Yeah, just so there's like pockets of connectivity, instead of the pockets of strong connectivity versus hopefully blanketed so-so connectivity like we have here.
right, absolutely.
Cool. Well, one of the more important, at least in my opinion, questions above safety, above lodging, above the plane and the airport and rental car and all that, is food. You know, it's got to be about the food. If you don't have a
Yes.
good dining experience, it's going to impact your entire trip. Or if you get sick or something like that, talk to me about the local cuisine, and how is it there? Is the food good, bad, ugly?
Man, the food is so good, especially in rural parts of Costa Rica, because it's basically fresh ingredients cooked to order.
Wow.
So I mean, you can't go wrong with that just about anywhere. But the pork chops in Costa Rica are some of the best I've had, and I know in that particular part of Costa Rica, they feed the pigs banana leaves, so the pork chops have this kind of sweetness to them that it's really good. There's a lot of places that raise tilapia, so the fish is always really good and fresh. Chicken's always really good and fresh. You're going to have black beans and rice every time you sit down at a table to eat. So my
It's a
my buddy
staple.
my buddy Enrique says, no, we do it differently. We have gallo pinto, for breakfast, which is black beans and rice with spices. We have
Mhm.
black beans and rice for lunch, but we change it up for dinner and we have rice and black beans. So,
I love it. They're
and
living on the edge over there,
oh
man. It's
yeah,
crazy.
changing it up. Keep it different. But um, the uh, the typical meal is called a casado, and you'll see that on just about every menu and every restaurant. And it's almost like the Costa Rican version or the Tico version. That's what Costa Ricans call themselves. Um, of a meat and three. You'll pick your protein. You'll have black beans and rice, a little salad, and then a vegetable, and usually a fried plantain, something like that, something sweet. So
Yeah.
it's like a platter of food, and it's usually the cheapest thing on the menu. So you'll see either the casado, or sometimes they call it the tico plate, or the typical plate, or something like that. But I've seen lots of tourist places. There's a place in downtown La Fortuna. It's this big open air restaurant, and I should have looked up the name. I forgot what it is, but you can't miss it. If you ask anybody where to eat, they'll say, "Oh, you got to go here." And it's almost like a pavilion more than a restaurant. But the waitresses are in traditional costumes, and it's a neat place to eat. But their menu is like 12 pages, and they've got spaghetti and hamburgers and pizza and all this stuff for like $15, $20.
I was gonna
And,
ask you that. Like, what
and
was
then
the
there's
average
well,
price of
then
a
you get
meal?
you get the Tico plate, and it's like $6, and it's more food than any of that, and it's all the local stuff because they know that's what Costa Ricans eat, so it's going to be cheaper anyway.
So you
Um,
could get by. It sounds like you could get by for like $18 a day on food. Is that accurate?
easily, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And there's a spot I did want to mention in La Fortuna that my buddy Enrique took me to the first time I went there, and it's literally like plastic chairs and plastic tables around this little booth, and it's called Soda La Hormiga, and I'll put a link on the notes. It's this little bitty place. The address is next to the bus station. That's the address, right? But I always take my workshop groups there, and
Yep.
they can never fit all of us at one table. Like some people are sitting at the bar, and some people are at a table where everybody's kind of, it's kind of this ramshackle place, and I'm like, you're gonna see why I bring you here, and everybody's like, oh my God, the food is amazing. It's like going to somebody's Costa Rican grandmother's house, and they make you lunch.
Uh,
And I won't tell you how little they charge me to feed 15 people, but I have to laugh, and they give me the bill, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's
wow.
like less
There
than
there
five
must
dollars
be
a
some
person.
mistake, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
That's cool. You're making me want to go right now, man. I can't
dude, I
wait.
need to talk about Costa Rica. It's freezing cold here in Atlanta today, so I'm thinking warm thoughts, man.
Keep warm, man. Keep warm.
Yeah.
Well, on that, let's talk about let's dive into the photography piece of this and the best times of year to head down there so that the weather. I would assume the weather is reasonably temperate year round down there, but you tell me, what's the best time of year to visit?
Well, it's going to be warm year round, and Costa Rica they get 200 inches of rain every year, and it doesn't all happen in the same month. So the drier season is December through April. Basically, is considered high season in La Fortuna, and that's another thing you have to keep in mind when you're traveling in Costa Rica. There are so many different microclimates, and there are different whether it's mountains or elevation or the ocean. There's so many things that affect the climate in different parts of the country that it might be rainy in San Jose, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be rainy in La Fortuna. So,
Right.
but the high season is December through April. So you're looking at less rain, but you're also looking at more tourists, more expensive hotels, that kind of thing. The other thing that I found in that time of year, the volcano, the Arenal volcano, which basically dominates the landscape, is almost completely obstructed by clouds most of the time.
Mm.
And during the dry season, it's so hot and dry that all the moisture comes out of the forest and makes clouds, and you can't see the volcano. So I do my workshop there in September, and for several different reasons, but I've done it for 6 years now, and it's like going to Florida in the summertime. You get about an hour or two of rain every day.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to rain, and then it stops. And other than that, it's clear. So during that time, August, September time, I probably wouldn't go as late as, say, October, November. It's the rainiest at that time. But the later part of the summer, you have a better chance of actually seeing the volcano and getting those big postcard views.
Or you could just, go down there and bring your drone and fly above the clouds or the fog and photograph.
You could try that, but it's more like if this is the volcano, the clouds are sort of here.
Sure.
It
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
really go that high. So
Yeah, yeah. All right, I want to. So on that, we kind of opened the door to talk about gear. With all that moisture and humidity down there, it sounds like is a weather sealed camera a must have in that location?
it's it's um it's a must want for sure. I've used weather sealed cameras for years, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons because I don't want to have to worry about, oh geez, I have to put my gear away or get a
Hmm.
cover out or something like that. But that's the other option. If your camera is not weather sealed, it's not the end of the world. Just be sure you have anything from a Ziploc bag to a fancy camera cover with you that you can keep your camera out of the elements because it can rain at a moment's notice really,
Yeah.
no matter what time of year you go. So.
Yeah, yeah. And most of these cameras, even the better cameras, I'd say that aren't weather sealed, it's not like they're gonna if one drop of water gets on them, they're gonna be destroyed. You just have to, don't dunk them in puddles or drop them in the ocean, right?
Right, right. And now I
Yeah,
did have one
or
guest
pull
on
them
a
out in a
workshop.
rainstorm and expect them to be okay.
Right, right. I had a workshop group a couple of years ago, and we were at a place called the Arenal Hanging Bridges, which is this really cool trail with these suspension bridges that are hundreds of feet above the jungle. It's an amazing place. But um, she had one of her cameras in a bag, like in a Ziploc bag, in her camera bag, and she had her other camera just under her poncho. And we got caught in this rainstorm for about 30 minutes. It was I've never seen anything like it was such hard rain, like jungle rain in the movies kind of rain,
Yeah,
you know.
nice.
And it was kind of fun because there's this concrete tunnel that's part of the trail, and we were just hanging out in there for a minute and watching it go. Um, but the camera that she had around her neck was weather sealed and was fine, and the camera that she had in her bag was, I guess, obviously not as weather sealed. So the LCD got condensation in it. She had condensation on the mirror box. Like it was definitely a bag of rice kind of a treatment for that one. But
Yeah.
and it started working after that. But it was just wild that the difference in how the two cameras reacted to the same weather.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like we always say on This Week in Photo, it's the right tool for the right job,
That's
right?
right.
So you can't don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Exactly.
So, all right. So then, when you're on the ground there, tell me about some of the locations that you like to hit when you're there, so that you come back with those, amazing Rob Knight images.
Well, if I was for the first time traveler to that area, the first time traveler,
I was
the,
gonna say, wow,
if you're
back to the
visiting
beginning.
if you're visiting La Fortuna for the first time, the Arenal National Park
Hmm.
is a really cool trail. There are um, two different trails that go to the main. It's basically a giant lava flow. It's all these huge volcanic boulders that were deposited there within a few minutes, but it's hundreds of yards of these boulders that you just it would seem like it would take them years to fall there, but it was just a few minutes, and the
Wow.
mountain exploded, and here's this thing, and you can basically climb on it and hike on it, and you're
Oh, it
right
sounds
at
amazing.
the volcano. It's cool. But the trail going to it, you can go one of two directions, so you can basically do sort of a wildlife loop and see primary rainforest and secondary rainforest and lots of different like we usually see big spiders and toucans and different wildlife and things like that just along the trail to the
Okay,
lava
you
flow.
just lost me at big spiders. like,
Yeah.
wait, what kind of spiders are we talking here? Are we talking like, Indiana Jones spiders or?
Not big tarantulas, like
Okay,
big
good, good.
golden weaver spiders and things like that, but
Okay, good, good.
they're not too aggressive from in my experience anyway. I don't poke
Okay,
them or
you
anything.
can't ride them or anything, right? They're
No,
not
no,
that big.
nothing like that.
Okay.
You'd have to be really small. Um, but that's a good place to visit. There's a little place right outside of La Fortuna. It's on the main road. You can't really miss it, called Ecocentro de Naus, and it's basically a little bitty wildlife refuge. It's not that big as far as acres go, but they have a butterfly garden that's really cool, and it's enclosed. So there's butterflies everywhere. You can shoot them very easily. Good light. They have. We always see really great tree frogs. The little poison dart frogs are all over there. There's a pond, and they have a couple of caiman. Um, they have several birds, toucans, and things like that. So a lot of the wildlife that you think of, like, oh, I'm going to go to Costa Rica, this is what I'm going to shoot. You can find it relatively easily at Danaus, and it's like 10 or 15 bucks to get in. You know, it's just this little nonprofit place. They rescue animals, and we usually see sloths there,
That's
and you
cool.
basically drive 5 minutes outside of the town, and you've got, you know, wildlife on a platter
It
basically.
sounds like a dream. It sounds
Really
like a
cool.
dream.
Yeah.
Except for that caiman, you know.
Right. Right. Don't pet the caiman.
Don't
Yeah.
pet the caiman. Again, that's that's Darwin at work right there. Only
That's
certain
right.
people will pet the caiman.
That's right. But there's
So
all
okay,
kinds of things like the La Fortuna waterfall. It's a famous thing. It's a kind of a touristy thing. You can go there and swim. It's this huge waterfall, hundreds of feet high. It still makes a cool picture. There's a lot of things that you'll sort of see everywhere, and I know maybe I have a problem with authority, and it's just me, but I know a lot of photographers kind of avoid the tourist things. But even the touristy things in Costa Rica are beautiful. You know.
yeah, no, I love it. So so that's on, if I was to go there, I'd want to do everything you just said. Is that kind of your suggested itinerary? Is that the flow that you would suggest someone that's new to Costa Rica? Is that what they should do, or do you have another suggestion?
I would pick maybe one big thing, one or two big things every day that you want to do. Plan a morning to do one thing and an afternoon to do another. Um, the travel time in between tends to be, you know, depending on where you go, you might drive for an hour outside of La Fortuna to get to some places that you want to go shoot.
Hmm.
But you know, if you that's what we do on the workshop, for example. We'll have one thing that we're going to shoot in the morning, and then we have one thing in the afternoon. So then, you know, if the morning thing goes quicker than you thought, then you have time to go into town and go shopping, or you know, go find a spot to eat lunch or whatever. So um, rather than try to pack too many things into a day, I think that's a good way to go.
Well, that's a good segue then. So the things that you'd want to do when you're not shooting, you're not always going to be shooting, and you're not always going to be eating or traveling. What are some non-photography related things that you might want to get into when you're down there?
Well, I mentioned the R&L hanging bridges.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing, and it's funny because it seems like something you would really want to take your camera and shoot, but from experience from taking photography groups there, it's an amazing thing. You hike through the forest and you're on these suspension bridges, and it's really cool. But the fact is, if you see wildlife, it's so far away, and it's in the top of the jungle canopy. And you know, unless you have a 1,000 millimeter lens and 10,000 watt seconds of strobe power, you're not going to get a shot.
Yeah.
You know, there's some neat vistas you can shoot. There's a waterfall along the path that you can shoot, but it's not really I wouldn't call it a photography thing. It's an amazing place to absolutely visit and do the hike. You've got to do a zip line while you're in Costa Rica. I love when people ask me that. Oh, you went to Costa Rica? Did you do the zip line? And to say there's basically a zip line in Costa Rica every 2 miles. You know what I mean? It's
Wow.
like everywhere you go, canopy zip line, zip line, zip line. But two of the best ones I've been on are in the La Fortuna area. One of them is called Sky Trek, and it's like if you're really upset about safety, if you're really concerned about some sort of homemade janky looking stuff, then Skytrek will make you feel better. It's all metal. It's all like fabricated. You know, it's like if you had a zip line in the States, it's going to be
Yeah.
like this. You know,
Right.
everything's just very high tech and very secure. You know, you have, in fact, even the pulleys that you ride on, you have handles that you hold on the pulleys. So it's very fancy. Now,
Yeah.
the one I like better than that is called Mundo Aventura, and you get in this trailer and they pull you up the hill behind a tractor, and I mean, I always think about it. People are tripped out because you know the cable just goes and it's wrapped around a tree, and there's bolts and bolts to hold it on there, and sometimes the platforms are like just wood and like they just made it yesterday kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you got to figure the guides do this every day, 12
Yeah.
times. So you know it's secure. They wouldn't be on there if it wasn't secure. So it's fixed good enough. But if you're squeamish about stuff like that, then I could see people being like, "Wait, is this okay? Is this fine?" No, but you know, it's Costa
Yeah.
Rica, man. It's
And you
it's just
and
how it
you've
works.
done that. How many times have you done that one?
Twice. Done that one twice. Yeah.
And you live to tell about it.
Oh
So
yeah. And it's that one is cool because the one cable actually starts above the La Fortuna waterfall. I think it's 200 feet up, and that particular cable is something like 970 meters long. So it's almost a whole kilometer that you drove from the top of the waterfall down. It's
Wow.
unbelievable, man.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a good if you could wear like some wearable type camera so
Yeah.
that you could get the shot because I don't want to be messing with my camera while
Right.
but
Right.
if I could put like a GoPro or an action cam on a helmet or something,
Absolutely.
I would do that in a hot minute, man. That
Super
sounds
cool. Super cool. And one other thing you have to mention in that part of the country is the hot springs.
oh.
Everywhere you go has a hot springs. Basically, the Arenal River is warm as it runs through that part. So every time I go, there's some new hotel that's popped up. They bought a piece of property with the river on it, and now it's a hot spring in a hotel. So there's a lot of them that are more established. There's one called Baldy Hot Springs that it has these huge tiki statues outside. It looks like if there was a hot spring at Disney. That's what it would look like.
Yeah.
And I've never been by there, literally never ever been by there that there wasn't 4 tour buses outside. So I
Really?
have never been there. I'm like, no thanks, that's cool.
So the
Um,
floor tour buses are like the keep Rob away signal.
Pretty much, yeah. The one that I really like is called Ecotermales, and it's family owned and has been for a couple of generations. They have a really nice restaurant that, again, it's more like eating dinner at somebody's house.
Yeah.
Really low key. They actually cut it off. They only allow 100 people in at a time. Although I've never been there when there were more than 20 people there.
Yeah.
Um, Much quieter. Um, it's just a very cool atmosphere, and it's you can go and you pay. I think it's $40, $45, and that gets you 4 or 5 hours in the springs and lunch or dinner.
Ugh.
So I
I
mean,
need that like every week. I need to do that.
dude,
That should be my Friday routine to go
no
there.
doubt. Absolutely. And once you go there, like we're going to go there in a few months,
Yep.
you will dream about it. You'll on a tough day you'll go, man, I wish I could go to Ecuador.
I'm gonna be ruined. I know it. I love it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well let's wrap this up. The last question I'd have for you is just like family oriented things. Like we've been talking mostly, a lot of the stuff we talked about you can do obviously with your family, and depending on how much you like your family, the zip lining stuff. but is it a good spot to bring the family with? You got a family, a husband, a wife, 2 kids, say. Is it a good place to go down there and have a good time?
I think so, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I've taken my wife and my 2 kids multiple times. My son's been there 3 times, and he doesn't turn 3 until March. So
Nice. And when you come back, you have the same amount of people that you left with?
same
So,
amount of children, yeah, I'll usually come back. And the great thing about taking, especially young kids there, is Ticos love babies. They love children. It's that sort of Latin thing. They're very family oriented people.
mhm.
So just a quick story. We were there at Leaves and Lizards with my son, and he was, I guess, 6 months old. And we were trying to have dinner, and he was just mad. He was upset. He was crying. He didn't want to be in his seat. He didn't anybody hold him. So we were trying to. And once the gals that served the food at Leaves and Lizards at their restaurant, this girl Rosa, she came over. Everything was served, so she didn't really have any more work to do. She came over, grabbed our crying baby, and walked off.
Uh-oh.
She walked around with our baby so we could eat dinner.
That's great.
Which was very cool because we got to eat dinner,
Yeah.
and he was great. He loves my son loves the ladies anyway, and he has a thing for Latin women. I think it's because we took him to Costa Rica when he was so young. So he was stoked. But every now and then, like when we go in the morning for breakfast, one of the ladies would come out, grab the baby, gone. You just look in the kitchen, and they're taking turns holding him and carrying him around and playing with him, and they just love babies. So it's
Wow.
almost like having a built-in babysitter because you can have your dinner and have your cocktail, and like the baby's around somewhere. They're not going to do anything, but they
You
love
may be single-handedly responsible for an influx of tourism to the country now
it. Yeah,
because people are listening to this like, wow, that sounds like a dream. I'm going.
good
Well,
stuff.
cool. Well, cool, man. I don't really have any other questions. Anything you wanted to add before we end the interview on your show?
I don't think so, man. Maybe a quick plug for our workshop. We're one of the places that we're going on our Fantasy Island extension. We're going to be hanging out in this part of Costa Rica in La Fortuna, and really going a long way towards that locals only experience, like I've been talking about. We'll be staying with some friends of mine on a farm, and doing the zip line and doing a lot of sort of Tico things more than just that resort experience. So
I love it. I love it.
check it
I'm
out.
in. You may, when we go down there, you may be returning with one less person than you left with. Cool,
Yep, I
man.
could.
Well, hey, Rob, thanks for doing this. It's been, I think this is the perfect way to discuss your experiences down there in La Fortuna and get me a little bit depressed in our, kind of chilly California weather here and your frigid, Eastern weather over there.
Yep,
But yeah,
absolutely.
man, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on and taking over and starting the conversation. You can find out more about our Costa Rica stuff and more at CostaRicaPhotoWorkshop.com. And I'm going to put a lot of links in the show notes for just about everywhere that I've mentioned. I've got links all ready to go for that. So um, thanks again, Frederick, and I'll talk to you later. If you like what you're hearing on your itinerary, please tell all your friends about it and stop by iTunes and leave us a few stars. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you, man.